There, beautiful humans. I hope that you are well. All right, so it is National Nutrition Month and it is also Autoimmune Awareness Month. So, with that, I want to share a little bit of information and spread some awareness in regards to kind of both. My name's Lydia. If we haven't met, I'm a holistic health and life coach, a registered nurse, and I am also a lupus, celiac, and Sjogren's thriver. I want to share a little bit about my celiac disease diagnosis, just kind of make some of the connections to that autoimmune journey and also the significance it plays, the role it plays in connection to overlapping with National Nutrition Month. Okay. I have a little cheat sheet here. I'll be sharing a combination of some of my journey and then also a little bit of what I have here from the Celiac Disease Foundation in regards to some things specific to celiac disease. Celiac disease, if you are like, what the hell are you talking about? What's celiac disease? I'll mention this gluten-free. Okay. So, not everyone who eats gluten free, needs gluten free, wants gluten free, goes for gluten free, has celiac disease, which is an autoimmune condition, not a food allergy. So, that's another thing. Now, I will say, guilty of being in a restaurant because not so many people more than before, but still, many people don't understand fully what it is. The short, I kind of sometimes say, and then I'll follow up with some more details, but the quick of it, oh, it's an allergy, just so they understand the severity of me making sure the questioning that I bring to them, because I'm like a little investigator when we're talking about food, and I'm just trying to let them know the seriousness of my need, desire, want to be sure that my food is safe and not contaminated with gluten. I'll sometimes go to it's an allergy. I know, I know. Shouldn't have to do that. Need to do better with that. I do try to be intentional about following up and then doing a little bit of education after. And you know, a lot of systems need some work. So again, it is an autoimmune disease, not a food allergy. Okay, celiac disease is a serious autoimmune disease that occurs in genetically predisposed people where the ingestion of gluten leads to damage in the small intestines. It is estimated to affect 1 in 100 people worldwide, but only about 30% of people are diagnosed. So that is like a whole lot of people who are not getting diagnosed, living with, struggling with, navigating symptoms going on with their body that they don't know what the hell's going on. Maybe being told they had, because I was told, oh, you have IBS, right? You have IBS. Oh, it's stress. Oh, it's this. All these different things. And it wasn't until I really persisted with talking to my doc, like, trying to figure out what was going on. They sent me to a GI doc. We did an endoscopy where they go down through your mouth and they are able to get a little, look around, see all the things, and also take little clippings of stuff. And so they take a little clipping of a certain part of your small intestine and look at it, and then are able to see if you have celiac disease, which is, the way that that kind of shows up is having blunted, flattened microvilli. I know that's like all sciencey stuff. I'm not getting all in the heavy sciencey stuff, but basically it's like think of like finger-like thingies, microvilli down in your gut somewhere, your stomach, your small intestines, your small intestines, not your stomach. Anyway, and so then like your food and nutrients and things like that not being able to like properly absorb because it's not the proper structure that it needs to be to go ahead and absorb properly. I hope I'm doing a decent job of explaining that. But basically, if you have celiac disease and you're eating gluten, it will affect your small intestines, will make it challenging for your body to absorb proper nutrients that it needs. And so that makes me go back to think of something that I struggled with at a certain point. Again, I had a combination of symptoms. And then if I even want to like look back further and kind of question certain things, probably even more. But one of the things around the time I was getting diagnosed that I really remember is bathroom stuff happening, like intense cramping, intense bathroom happenings that felt like they would just come out of nowhere quickly and, for no reason. Um, and Also, I remember a period of being like losing a lot of weight. So I was losing a lot of weight, and I also felt like my muscle tone was changing. So I just looked like really slim with kind of like almost like it felt like I was losing muscle mass and probably was. I don't even know if I have any pictures for that time, but I just know I was losing a lot of weight and I wasn't trying to lose weight, and that was definitely strange for me because I'm kind of usually the person who could look at something and gain the weight, right? So the fact that, I mean, yes, I was going to the bathroom all the time. It felt like a whole lot. But in any case, I was losing a lot of weight. I think some things were kind of changing with my hair. I have had, if I go back even further, a period of skin manifestation. So I had things with my skin starting as a young child, and that can be something that presents with people that can show up with people who have celiac disease. And also, I do have a lupus diagnosis. So it's kind of like, which one is that? But more recently, actually, um, talking to my primary care physician, I had something kind of weird come up, this new neurological type happening that came up. And I told her, yeah, I noticed my rash and I haven't had my rash in a long time. And she goes, I think you're being like, I think this is gluten. She was like, pretty much saying, like, I think that you're contaminated. Like something is some gluten, some way, somehow is getting into you. And so I had to step back, kind of look at that. And I was like, all right, I think I know where some of this might be coming from. And so I had to make some adjustments in regards to that. Could talk about that in another time. But you know, uh that is a little bit of the journey. Okay, so when people with celiac disease eat gluten, a protein found in wheat, rye, and barley, okay, so I'm telling you where it's from. So, gluten, where the hell is it? What's this protein? Wheat, rye, barley, and sometimes oats. So, note that, and sometimes oats. So their body mounts an immune response that attacks the small intestines. These attacks lead to damage on the villi, small finger-like projections that line the small intestines that promote nutritional absorption. When the villi gets damaged, nutrients cannot be absorbed properly into the body. So, hello, I mean, right? The weight loss and then all kinds of things. I've heard that especially like younger kids who have celiac disease, they may present with mood, like anger, outbursts, intense moods, all kinds of different things. And sometimes that could be in connection with with some of that also. Like if your body's not getting the proper nutrition. Another side note, like if your body is deficient in specific vitamins, it could really impact your energy, your mood, your focus, your concentration, all kinds of different things. Okay. All right. So celiac disease is hereditary, meaning it runs in families. People with first degree relative with celiac disease, parent, child, sibling, have a 1 in 10 risk of developing celiac disease. I know my kids, they're mad at me having 3 autoimmune conditions. They're like, my goodness, thanks, mom. What are you giving us? And so I have had both my children tested. Uh, Now they're 18 and 22. So as of now, they've come up negative. One of them has had the blood work and an endoscopy. One of them has had just the blood work. Both of them have come up negative for everything. I will say that when they did the blood work on me, it came up as negative. but it was actually the endoscopy when they went down um, and took the sample and, tested things in the lab that they were able to find that I did have celiac disease. So, just to say that sometimes it can take a while to get a proper diagnosis, and different tests might need to be involved to be sure. And again, things change with time. Celiac disease can develop at any age after people start consuming gluten. Left untreated, celiac disease can lead to additional serious health problems. So, when my doctor called me, I remember the phone call, and it was validating. Um, and also like, what the hell? Because I was having all these things, and it's like kind of like made to feel like it was all in my head and I was making shit up. And, um, so he's like, yep, you have celiac disease. You probably had it your whole life. Okay. All right. What's celiac disease? So then he tells me a little bit about it. And then I go on the journey of learning so many things. And I will say that celiac diagnosis did absolutely open the door to learning so much more about food and autoimmune responses and, you know, quality of food, the things that we eat. Like, just it just opened a whole door to me for me to kind of step back and look at, yeah, to be concerned about gluten, and then also consider, oh, well, if gluten can impact me in these ways, what are some other foods that are impacting me and my immune system in other ways, in the way that I feel? That's a talk for another time. So, long-term health effects. So, people with celiac disease have a 2-time greater risk of developing coronary artery disease and a 4-time greater risk of developing small bowel cancers. So, we do actually have a family history of cancer and stomach cancers. And also, I mean, let's look at the coronary artery disease kind of situation. Women, right? And also having lupus. So I knew a long time ago, even, before this diagnosis, that I had lupus and that my inflammatory markers were very elevated. And so knowing that, that put me at an increased risk of having a cardiac event. Like, it would actually say it on my labs, you're at a 10-time risk of a cardiac event. I was like, oh shit, I don't want to have a cardiac event. Like, no time soon, please and thank you. And so that was another thing, right? Like, having these multiple diagnoses, learning more and more and more and more about these things guided me to, yeah, it was scary at times. Yeah, it kept me up at times. Yeah, all these things. And also it gave me food for thought. And then kind of, I think it gave me that opportunity, or it planted the seeds of like, okay, well, what do you want to do here? Like, how do you want this to go down? Um, so, all right. So, the treatment burden of celiac disease is comparable to end stage renal disease, and the partner burden is comparable to caring for a patient with cancer. Wow, I haven't read that before. Hold up, let me read that one more time. Woo. The treatment burden of celiac disease is comparable to end stage renal disease, and the partner burden is comparable to caring for a patient with cancer. Untreated celiac disease can lead to the development of other autoimmune diseases like type 1 diabetes, MS, many other conditions, including dermatitis, herpetiformis, an itchy skin rash, anemia, osteoporosis, infertility and miscarriage, neurological conditions like epilepsy and migraines, short stature, heart disease, and intestinal cancers. So that's a little bit of that. Treatment, currently the only treatment for celiac disease is lifelong adherence to a strict gluten-free diet. People living gluten-free must avoid foods with wheat, rye, barley, such as bread and beer, and like I mentioned, the oats, because they can be contaminated with some of the processing. I think I'll probably end up making another video about some of the food stuff too, like to give you a clearer way how gluten can sneak into like life and all the things. Ingesting small amounts of gluten, like crumbs from a cutting board or toaster, can trigger small intestine damage. Now, again, I'm reading off the Celiac Foundation information. And, again, I've read most of this type of stuff on and off for years. And also, like, just reading this here now with you is like, holy shit, like, damn, right? Damn. Okay. Just breathe. So they have information where you can read about the gluten-free diet. Like I said, I'll probably touch on that another time. Celiac disease is also known as, they have different spellings, but it's like Coeliac disease, celiac sprue, non-topical sprue, and gluten-sensitive enteropathy. Um, let's see. Oh, look, here's some other things. So here's a list. This has a list here. Undiagnosed, untreated celiac disease can lead to. And so I just want to say this, I was diagnosed with this, and I know that there's been the whole gluten-free, right? Some people will say it's a fad, it's a trend, it's this is that. Um, yeah, some people don't need to be gluten-free. They choose to be, they want to be. It might work for them for other things, but they might not have, or not everyone has the autoimmune condition that produces this response with all this impact and symptoms and um you know the process, pathophysiology, all the different things that can come into play here. um and just to say, like, I know through the journey it has been, even though ultimately I feel grateful for the diagnosis in that it taught me so much. It has taught me so much about, again, the autoimmune conditions, food, the connection between the two, how to feel better, all kinds of things. It's also been frustrating, and there's been times I've been pissed off about it, whether it's like the amount of effort it takes to advocate for yourself in regards to food, or the lack of understanding people might have, or you know, um, it not being taken seriously, and, um, a combination of things that can come up with it. Yeah, there's like, social events and things you go to and want to participate in, and things you can just wish you could just experience, that because of the diagnosis, because of the risk, because of all the different things, you may not be able to participate with some of those things. And ultimately, like, I'm okay with it. And also, yeah, it sucks sometimes. I do kind of try to use some of that, like, ooh, how can I get creative to create something, to find something, and then try to kind of gamify it. And that's just kind of, I think, part of my nature, or kind of, um, how I navigate it. And also, um, it can be really frustrating and suck. All right. So back to some of the additional things here in regards to long-term health conditions. So it also has pancreatic insufficiency, small intestine cancer, and non-Hodgkin lymphoma, vitamin and mineral deficiencies, malnutrition, liver failure, lactose intolerance, iron deficiency, anemia, and then, gallbladder malfunction, early onset osteoporosis, and osteopenia. So no, who knows? I don't know which one was first. So I did end up having my gallbladder removed. Now, my lifestyle, aside from the gluten at certain points, was one where, I was eating things that really weren't in alignment with a healthy gallbladder. So, right, like, how much of it was the celiac, how much of it was the lifestyle. Now, I will say that the way that it presented, I did have to have it removed, was they kind of like had this, oh, this is interesting. You don't actually have stones, but your gallbladder's not functioning. Like, the way that it just wasn't working, they were kind of confused about that. So it was multiple tests and all of that leading up to the diagnosis, and they never found any stones, but they just knew it was not working. And so they had to take it out. And the other thing, so based off something here they mentioned, while I didn't have liver failure, I have had periods of elevated liver enzymes, very elevated liver enzymes, to the point where I had to have a biopsy of my liver. And they had to really keep an eye on how things were going. And so they were like, is this autoimmune hepatitis? Of course, they tested for all the hepatitises. That all came out fine, you know. So they were kind of a little confused. And also, so another note here in regards to some of that nutritional awareness space, there are more and more people who are getting diagnosed with liver problems, liver failure, increased liver enzymes, these things due to lifestyle factors, right? So we know about alcohol in the liver, and also certain eating habits and foods, and a combination of those things can lead to fatty liver disease and stuff like that. So, anyway, so just to say that I had presented with some liver manifestations, liver happenings, and they weren't necessarily clear. So now it's kind of like, huh, could this have been the impact of having that undiagnosed celiac for all those years? So that's that. All right, what else do we have here? So they have a whole list of oops, sorry guys. I'm probably not gonna edit that out. All right, autoimmune and other conditions associated with celiac disease. So here's the other thing. So autoimmune condition anemia, prevalence in the celiac disease population, sorry, 12 to 69%. Okay. Autoimmune hepatitis, 2%. Autoimmune thyroid disease, 26%. Chronic fatigue syndrome, 2%. Dermatitis, hyperformia, 25%. Down syndrome, 12%. Gluten ataxia, 10 to 12%. I might be talking about that some more later. Idiopathic dilated cardiomyopathy, 5.7%. Juvenile idiopathic arthritis, 1.5 to 6.6%. Liver disease, 10%. Lymphocytic colitis, 15 to 27%. Microscopic colitis, 4%. Peripheral neuropathy, 10 to 12%. Might be talking about that in the future. Primary biliary cirrhosis, 3%. Sjogren's syndrome, I have that, 3%. Type 1 diabetes, listen to this, 8 to 10%. It's pretty significant. Unexplained infertility, 12%. Another big one. So, I'm going to put a link wherever I share this. I might be sharing this in a couple different places, but I'll be sure to put the link for the Celiac Disease Foundation where I got some of this information, so that you can go ahead and read it. And, you know, I do want to invite you, whether um, you are having some stomach issues and you're not sure, you know, I can't tell you whether it's celiac, I don't know. But, you know, it's worth having a conversation with your doc. And also, maybe you have a family member or loved one who's gluten free or thinks they might have celiac or has celiac. You know, I want to invite you to take just a couple minutes, whether it's watching this. If you watch this, hey, you don't have to look at the article, but you know, maybe read the article if you want to learn a little bit more. Reach out to me if you have any questions, if there's any way that I can, you know, share some of my journey that might be a support to you or someone that you know. And, you know, I also want to invite you to consider making a donation to the Celiac Disease Foundation. So I will say that through my journey of navigating these multiple autoimmune conditions, having these foundations has been very helpful and very important in me making sure that I get information and education that helps me figure out which way to go, how to better navigate, how to keep myself safe, how to share, you know, what to share with my family, with my kids. Because that's the thing, like I just shared a little bit of what is celiac disease, but these organizations go into detail of looking at all the different ways that these diagnoses impact the individual. the caregiver, the family, like the resources they need, the support they need, the education they need, like all these different things. So I want to invite you to consider making a donation to Team Gluten Free under my page. I'll have a link here for you, and just donating whatever it is that you can or so desire to give to support this work, because let me tell you, as much progress has been made. So if you've been in a grocery store, you've seen gluten-free foods, you hear more people talking about it, and that is great. And also, there is still so much more work that needs to be done, support. There's so many people who don't have the proper resources to be able to live fully a gluten-free life, whether it's like financially or just being able to access certain things. There's just so many different things that come into play with this. And so the research is important. And we know now, you know, there's a threat to proper research as well. So, in any case, I want to invite you to consider making a donation to my Team Gluten Free page. That is somewhere around here in a link somewhere, or you can message me. If you'd like to donate, I would love to get that in. It's my birthday month also. Forgot to mention that. So that would be a great gift. Again, any amount, like a cup of coffee, whatever you want to like give would be absolutely amazing. Please and thank you. And, share this with someone who could, really appreciate like listening to someone else with celiac, or, who gets it. Because let me tell you, I mean, it took me a long time to meet other people who have this diagnosis. And unfortunately, like, yes, I found the Celiac Foundation, but I didn't find them like in that moment. I mean, I wish I could remember like exactly when I found them. I was dealing with a lot. Like I said, my son was a baby, I had my other son, all kinds of things. And I'm not going to lie, I had denial with this diagnosis. I mean, come on. Gluten-free, no wheat, right? Like I had to give up. I had to give up my Red Lobster biscuits. I had to give up my Copeland biscuits. I had to give away my pizza, my burgers. Hello? I had to say no. So I went through this journey of like being in a little bit of denial and having to do a process of saying farewell. So this is a whole nother side note aside from the education. This is my personal journey stuff where I was in denial, and I would go out and tell my husband, like, let's go eat here. I need to say goodbye to these biscuits. And I'd end up like praying on the way home because of the stomach pains and cramps and all the things. And I would do that to myself over and over again a few times before like I finally got the message. And I'm grateful, that I was eventually able to get to a place. And again, the education, really learning about things helped me to look like, okay, yeah, you want this biscuit. Yeah, you want this pizza. And also you want, your body to work so that you could take care of your kids. You want your brain to work properly so you can like live your life. You want to not be in the bathroom all the time, right? Like you want to be able to do things without um, being sick all the time. So, anyway, I'm just sharing some autoimmune awareness and a little bit of nutrition stuff with you. Thanks for coming to my awareness talk. If you find this helpful at all, let me know. If you have any questions, please do reach out. And thank you. Bye.